Rene is one of the all-time, not only characters of racing, but one of the greatest drivers. He won 4 championships in a row, hence his nickname, the Champ. And the guy could drive anywhere, big tracks, little tracks, dirt tracks, big tracks, asphalt tracks. I mean, he's won all over. How many different tracks have you won at? Do you have a?
I don't believe there's a track around that I haven't won at. But I tried to get a championship at the tracks, but with the work I was doing to be a national championship, we had to race down south. And we raced down south. And one time we raced down south on New Year's Day race.
At Winston-Salem,
Winston-Salem was Eddie Flemke, Rene Charland, and Redfoot. Now they dubbed us the Eastern Bandits. And I was talking to Glenn Wood down in Daytona Beach a couple years ago. And I told him, I said, boy, we like that Winston-Salem track. He says, I know you do, but when you guys come down, I'm the fastest car on the track. When you guys come down, you go down put, goes Eddie Flemke, put, Rene Charland, and then put, Rene and Redfoot. I couldn't understand it. Well, I said, well, the thing is, we can't afford good cars like you guys, because you go out there, you burn your tires out, and you win the race and things like that, but we can go on nice and easy. And we are poor people from the north. So we came down, and we come down to see the races and everything else like that, and they had to fight for 4th spot.
That was a brief but spectacular era, in what was 61 through about 63 in New England racing. And I've talked to Junie Donlevy, who recently was the owner of the Winston number 90 Winston Cup team, and he said that Rene and Redfoot and Eddie Flemke would just come down and just annihilate those guys. And Rene, you had a great racing career. You've had your ups, you had your downs, you had your 2 bad fires, which we're glad you did recover from. But what was your most fun years? Chasing the championships you ran with guys in New England and Canada, and from like Dick Nephew and Chartrand to the local guys at Norwood like Hop Harrington, Leo Cleary, and then down south with Carl Burris at the time, and Ron Harris and Ray Hendricks and Sonny Hutchins. What was the most fun you had? I know you had a lot of fun. I know you raced with the late Johnny Roberts. But what were your best? What was some of the most fun you had?
One of the fun that I had is Dale Earnhardt. I go in the pits, start talking to him and everything else like that, and he says to me, I don't know if I should talk to you or not. I said, for what? He said, no, I don't want to talk to him about it. He said, well, tell me the truth now. I said, well, all right. You used to beat my old man when he comes down racing on dirt. I said, well, he was easy. I'm waiting to get you on dirt and see if I can take you out there, but, well, you'll never get me on a dirt track, he said. That's Dale Earnhardt.
But you had a lot, you raced with a lot of people.
Oh, yeah.
Who were the toughest people you raced against? And you had a long career from the late, 40s, I believe, into the
40
to the maybe 1980ish or so?
48 or 49, I started racing on Riverside Park. And we used to build a car, and we didn't even know what we were doing. As long as they got 4 wheels and brakes and beer keg for a gas tank. And I had one time, the beer keg broke loose and rolled right next to me, and I had to stop the car and bring it back down and chain it up and go back racing again. And Moon Burgess was down there, and he was a very good driver, and I was just learning. Then after a while, Adolph DeRocher asked me with the 250, would you like to drive my car tonight? I said, yes. And that's an alcoholic car, and I got into that car, and of course I didn't have no qualifications on it, and I had to start last in the heat, and I won the heat, and I started last in the feature, and I won the feature. And he said, you want to drive some more for me? I said, sure, anytime. And we had a very good career out of it. And he passed away, and so on. And the racing is good. The racing is good. I don't believe that there's anybody that was tougher. I didn't beat the guys, and I can't say that the guys didn't beat me. But I had the privilege of beating those guys in a feature race and winning it. And in return, they probably did the same thing to me. I raced in Canada, which is, I got a story about that. They had a race down there, it was 300 lap race. It was on a third of a mile track, and we got two 22-gallon tanks. And the Canadians were always pulling in the pits and changing tires and putting gas on it and everything like that. I ended up, I had 3 laps on the lead. So we got about 4 or 5 laps to go. So I went up on top because they were running out of bottom, because I didn't want them guys running into me or me running into them. So then I won the race. They give me the checker flag and everything else like that. Then they give me a protest, which was a sheet written in French. And I was educated in French schools and everything else like that, and I could read, write, and speak French. But I didn't tell them that. And they were talking to each other and everything else like that. They said we want to check my gas tank. I said, check my gas tank? Yeah, that's all we're gonna do. I said, good, then you can check the car. Well, before I'm going too far, they put up $350 for that protest. I said, who's gonna get the protest? You check my car, you get the protest, and you don't have to pay the mechanic or anything else like that. He said, I give you the $350 and I give you the $1,500 to win the race. I said, you got a deal. So he checks it, and I come out legal, he gives me the money. I pulls out my NASCAR rule book. I said, see this here on a national championship race, which this is, you can check the first 5 cars without protesting them with money. He said, you give me back my money? I said, no. I said, you started it, not me. He calls up Bob Saul in Jersey.
4 Kent Road in Patterson, New Jersey.
Yeah, and Bob Saul, he tells him the story. He said, who the heck could that be? He said, Rene Charland. He said, hey, forget it, you'll never get that money.
But Rene, you had a lot of fun racing.
Yes.
And you won a lot of races. Who was some of the toughest you ever ran against?
Eddie Flemke.
Why?
Well,
a lot of people say that.
Eddie Flemke was a good friend of mine. He taught me a lot in racing. And I felt as if I couldn't pass him when I get up to him. And I said, I'd like to really beat him. So one day, we were up an ice slip. They had a 500 lap race. I don't know if you remember that or not. And that race there, I went up there, and I sat on a pole. And he said, what are you doing on the pole? He says, I don't know, I can't qualify that good. But in the meantime, I went up to M&H's Tire, and I wanted some tires for the ice slip 500. So he said, I'm all sold out. The only thing I got is some experimental tires. They call it the Red X. He said, well, can I have 2 sets of those and go up the ice slip and for the race? He said, yeah. So I had to pay him. He wouldn't give them to me for nothing. That guy there, he wouldn't part with a tire for nothing. No. So Eddie saw the tires. Well, I'm going too fast. After the race, he says, Jesus Christ, you were flying. But I had 3 laps ahead of Eddie, and Eddie had 8 laps ahead of Georgie Tett. You know Georgie Tett, the
Japanese fellow used to drive.
And we won the race up there, and they gave out silver dollars on that. I happened to open the cab of my truck. I had a new truck with a zipper there, and throw all the silver dollars in there. And in fact, I think I got a few of them left somewheres in some safety deposit boxes or something like that. And we had a lot of money. And then that's where I passed Eddie Flemke and lapped him and everything else like that. And then it took that sport deal when I come up to him that I can't pass him. And then I pass him like that, then I could race a lot better than I did before.
What do you think of, we just got a couple minutes left, Rene. What do you think of today's current crop of drivers, or even the whole modified circuit?
Well, I can say something about that racing up in New York. They have these cars built up and everything else like that. They got bars in the back and they got levers in the back and it's unbelievable. They get their chassis, they buy their chassis, just the chassis and roll bars for about $2,500. And our chassis, if we paid $15 for it in the junkyard, it was a lot of money. And the cars, compared to ours, I'd like to have any one of my cars and race the cars today. I think they're about a second or a second and a half faster than ours, and I quite don't believe that. And if I can get one of my cars mounted the way it was before, I think I could beat them.